The Exorcist Believer, envisioned as a revival of the iconic 1973 film The Exorcist, is a creation of David Gordon Green, an American filmmaker recognized for directing the recent 3 films in the Halloween series. This venture aligns with Green's proven ability to weave enthralling narratives. The film features Leslie Odom Jr., celebrated for his role in Hamilton and appearances in Glass Onion and Murder on the Orient Express, alongside Lydia Jewett. It also includes notable cameo roles by Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn, who reprised their roles from the original as Regan and Chris McNeil, respectively. Their return sets high expectations for the film to match the original's level of horror and surprise. The story unfolds as 2 girls mysteriously disappear for 3 days, returning without any memory of the time lost, triggering a series of inexplicable events. The families of the girls come together in an urgent attempt to rescue them from impending doom. With a runtime of 111 minutes, The Exorcist Believer delves into the unexplainable and sinister occurrences surrounding the 2 girls. The film intertwines elements of psychological terror with supernatural dread as the families of the missing girls unite in a desperate effort to save them from an unseen and malevolent force. But before we get into the review, if you enjoy this content, hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And click the notification bell to be alerted when we drop new content. Now, let's get critical. In Haiti, during their honeymoon, photographer Victor Fielding, played by Leslie Odom Jr., and his pregnant wife Serene experience a devastating earthquake. Serene is severely injured, and Victor is forced to choose between saving his wife or their unborn child. He chooses the child, but Serene dies. 13 years later in Georgia, Victor, having lost his faith, raises his daughter Angela alone. Angela and her friend Catherine perform a seance in the woods to contact Angela's mother, but both girls go missing for 3 days. They are eventually found in a barn, seemingly unharmed except for burns on their feet. But soon after, Angela exhibits violent and convulsive behavior while Catherine has an outburst in church. Angela's nurse, Anne, played by Ann Dowd, and Catherine's mother, Miranda, suspect demonic possession, especially after Angela reveals secrets about Anne's past. Victor is given a memoir by Chris McNeil, whose daughter Regan experienced a similar situation in 1973, a la The First Exorcist. Chris has become an expert in exorcisms and suggests a multicultural approach to helping the girls. Victor, Miranda, Anne, and Catherine's father, Tony, seek help from various religious figures, including Father Maddox, Pastor Don Revens, Preacher Stewart, and healer Dr. Beehive. They plan an ecumenical exorcism, but the local Catholic diocese forbids Maddox from participating. During the exorcism, the demon reveals that Victor originally chose to save Serene and not Angela. It then forces Victor to choose which girl will live. As the situation escalates, Maddox, defying the diocese, rejoins the group but is killed by the demon. Victor regains his faith and prays, leading to a confrontation where Tony declares he chooses Catherine. In a twist, Catherine is then taken to hell by the demon, while Angela survives. In the aftermath, Angela returns to school, Miranda and Tony mourn Catherine, and Victor reconnects with his faith and his deceased wife, Serene. In the hospital, Chris is reconciled with her daughter, Regan. Director David Gordon Green, known for his work on the 2018 Halloween series, including Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills, is experienced in revitalizing horror franchises with a focus on the fanbase. His decision to use practical effects and makeup for some of this Exorcist reboot adds a level of authenticity often lacking in possession films, which typically rely on special effects and post-production edits. However, despite his successful track record with the Halloween franchise, Green's attempt to reinvigorate the Exorcist series doesn't quite hit the mark. The film struggles to generate the kind of tension, cringe-inducing shock, and all that defined its predecessor. Green tries to introduce new elements of shock and horror, as seen in the bathroom scene with Angela and Victor or the church scene with Catherine, but the direction and writing fail to build the suspense essential for instilling fear in viewers. At no point did the characters, especially Victor, appear to be truly frightened. They seemed, at most, to be mildly concerned. The script is lackluster and struggles to intertwine character development with the movie's themes. For instance, the film explores Victor's loss of faith following his wife Serene's death and his subsequent rediscovery of faith, yet it doesn't effectively establish his initial religious convictions. This oversight makes his crisis of faith seem inconsequential until it becomes relevant to the plot. The story begins promisingly with a mysterious disappearance of the girls, but misses the chance to develop this angle, instead revealing their possession as a demonic jest, which is brief and predictable. The film also aims to highlight the themes of community strength and familial bonds, but falls short in execution. Ellen Burstyn's return to the franchise, especially after her refusal to appear in Exorcist 2, is surprising and somewhat disappointing given her minor role that contributes little beyond the references to the original film. Other characters like Anne, the neighbor, nurse, and former almost nun are given just enough background to propel the plot, but lack depth. The narrative underplays significant events such as Catherine's family being deceived and her soul being taken to hell, reducing their impact. The film's treatment of Catherine's devout family, easily tricked despite their faith, is particularly striking, suggesting that even Victor could have made a similarly erroneous choice. The Exorcist Believer ends up being a rather unremarkable entry in the Exorcist series. The film could have been improved with a revised plot focusing on a tumultuous relationship between Victor and his daughter Angela. Imagine Victor harboring internal resentment towards Angela, blaming her for Serene's death and frequently venting his frustrations on her. Angela, in turn, grapples with feelings of being unloved and unwanted, making her more vulnerable to possession. In a climactic choice, Victor opts to save Catherine, a decision seen by her parents as selfless, but for Victor, it's a way to escape the guilt and burden of his negative feelings towards Angela. The demon claims Catherine's soul, and Angela is left aware that her father never truly wanted her, echoing the strained relationship between Regan and Chris. Although the film achieved financial success at the box office, grossing $137 million against a budget of $30 million, the future of its sequel, Deceiver, is uncertain due to the unfavorable reviews received by Believer. It has been reported that David Gordon Green has stepped down from his roles as director and writer from the upcoming installments. For those interested in exorcism films, I would recommend The Exorcism of Emily Rose, loosely based on a true story. The Rite, featuring Anthony Hopkins, and Constantine, which, while not a typical exorcism movie, contains relevant elements. Emily Rose is often hailed as one of the best exorcism movies of recent times. Sadly, I can't say the same for The Exorcist Believer. My rating for this film is 1 out of 5 stars. If it aimed to be compelling, well, it wasn't very compelling.